Hello, Gashead, and welcome back to the Rovers Report. How are we all feeling after yesterday's result? I know for me, I came away feeling a little bit frustrated. Probably had enough domination to win that game. Didn't really create much, but similar to Bradford, I felt like we just had enough just to snatch it. But it is what it is, and all in all, it was a really enjoyable day actually. The Tranmere fan zone where me and a couple of mates watched the Everton Man U game before and the Grand National afterwards was really good. Good pints, good company, and yeah. In today's video, I've got Tom Wookey on the channel, and we'll be dissecting yesterday's game. He'll give us his thoughts, and we'll do a brief preview of the Salford game. So yeah, enjoy the video, give me a like, and make sure to subscribe. So I'm here today with Tom. We were both at the Tranmere game yesterday, and my general take on it is that although it's frustrating that we couldn't win, and I think we did enough to probably win the game, certainly controlled the game well, just didn't have that cutting edge. I think we can take positives out of it. And the fact that they're up there challenging with us and we went there and we were definitely the better team, I think it's just frustrating, isn't it? Because we could have won that game and the extra 2 points would have been massive to us. But yeah, what do you think about it, mate?
I agree with that. I think the possession stats were definitely in our favour. I mean, on paper that doesn't really mean much, but I think we definitely dominated the game in large parts, and it felt like a bit of a defeat in terms of the manner, and yeah, it was just frustrating. We just seemed to be sort of playing some really nice triangles in midfield like we usually do, especially with Philly and Anson making some good runs and forays into between the lines, and we just didn't quite have that final pass or even just a shot on the edge of the area. They seemed to defend quite well on the edge of their box. I know yesterday we mentioned Peter Clark, I think that's his name. He did a good job in handling Collins, and still be doing that at 40 years old. Testament to him. Yeah, think they dealt. The two centre halves did a quite good job with handling Collins, and they seemed to shepherd us away from goal quite well once we made it. But
that's the thing, I think, is although it feels disappointing, you've got to remember, and Barton said this in his press conference as well, is that is what Tranmere is set up to do. They don't have that home record for nothing. They're very good at winning games 1 or 2-0 and just closing them out. So I think the fact that we even got back into that game is a positive thing for them, the team, to take away. But I think a couple of points for me on the players. I think Nicholson isn't quite back to his best yet, is he? This season for him has been quite stop-start, and I think he could maybe do with just being put on the bench. Maybe I'd give someone like Thomas a go, just to inject a bit of energy and freshness into the team. And then the other one for me is Collins isn't particularly firing, and I think he's really missing Anthony Evans. I think that game yesterday was crying out for Evans, wasn't it? Just
it was.
ball.
Yeah, and somebody just to take it, a shot from distance. I think we were slightly. I wouldn't say we were afraid to shoot from distance. It just wasn't on because Tranmere, as I said, were shepherding us quite well on the outside of their box. So somebody like Evans with a shot from distance or just test the keeper was needed. I know Anderson did a good job, and Finley making runs in between the lines, especially in the first half. I thought Finley was unlucky. There were a couple of times when he went for a little flick around a corner and perhaps the strikers weren't on the same wavelength. So yeah, I think we have missed Evans. I know we've still been doing well without him, but he's arguably being the best player for Rovers this season. He's bailed us out a couple of times. Barrow at home, for example, with that absolute screamer. And yeah, on the Nicholson topic, I think it's a bit of a weird one because, in my opinion, I think he's a top League One player. We saw that last season in a lot of games. He was our top scorer? I think he might have been, or at least top scorer. He's had a very good career, and I think at the moment, I don't know if it's a confidence issue or something like that, but he's definitely got the talent. And perhaps, as you said, just a couple of games on the bench and give Thomas a go might sort of re-energise Nico, because he has been unlucky with injuries as well. That's why he didn't play towards the end of last season in the last few games, because he had that injury, and I think that also kept him out for the start of this season. I'm not too sure. he's a very talented player. You can see that yesterday. I don't think there are many players in League One and League Two that have the acceleration that he has. It's just a case of maybe a confidence thing and perhaps putting Thomas in. I didn't watch the Bradford game, but it seemed like Thomas made an impact off the bench then. We know the talent that he has and that he possesses. So I think that's a switch that could happen perhaps for a couple of games, see how Thomas gets on.
Yeah, I definitely think that, because I was at the Bradford game, and it's like it just injects a bit of intensity, and the team I think when they see that, they play off of him as well, and he brings the pace up a bit. I think maybe what's happened in the last couple of games is just people forget that we had that, was it 6-week period of Saturday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that is just catching up a little bit with maybe like Collins. I think Harry Anderson he doesn't show any signs of that, so I definitely leave him in. And I'm not, maybe it's being a bit reactionary, but like I do think that Collins, maybe just give him one game off. The whole Ryan Loft thing confuses me. Is Joey was so keen to get him in, and then to choose is it 37-year-old Leon Clark?
Yeah, it's true. And as much as I like Clark, he's got a lot of goals in his career. I'd still probably try and keep Collins in, just because Clark is obviously more of a target man. I think it might have been better to start him yesterday, given that Bury's two centre halves were very physical.
But you're right; it completely changes the way Rovers play, doesn't it?
It does. It does, and it's a bit of I think Collins, obviously had that purple patch last couple of games. He hasn't scored, but I'd probably try and keep him in, just because one thing I find about Collins is that his ball control, his acceleration. He's one of those few players in the league that I see who has that ability to get that extra touch ahead of the defender to either win a free kick or something, or just to give himself a yard. I think we'd slow the game down a little bit if we started with Leon, and that might not necessarily be a bad thing. But in terms of our style of play, I'd probably try and keep Collins in.
And also, I think Collins is essential to that press from the front, isn't he? And
yeah, exactly.
Loft can do that. I think we saw that. What was it, Newport for Loft? Where he came in.
Might be. I didn't watch the Newport game,
but yeah, we saw that, and I think that's clearly the way Rovers want. We want to defend from the front, and you can't do that with Leon Clark. He doesn't. He'll try, but he just doesn't have that in him. So I think, like you said, you're probably right. Is stick with them. I think the only substitution I would make is if Evans is fit, give Nicholson a rest, shift Anderson out wide, and bring Evans back through the middle.
I think that's, as you said, that 6-week period with games on a Saturday and Tuesday. We had Ellie Anderson on the left, didn't we? Evo, Finley, and Coots as the three, and then Rhino on the right. So maybe revert to that. I haven't heard anything on the Evans front in terms of his return. But
I think he travelled with the squad yesterday, and he was out on the pitch. And I think maybe it was just one game too soon. I think Barton probably looked at the end of the season and thought, we don't want him to come back too soon, rush him, and then him get injured and be out for the rest of it.
Exactly, considering we've got Salford on Friday, and then who's it on Easter Monday?
Port Vale
away.
Yeah, very tough game.
So yeah, I think I'd rather have rested him yesterday and then bring him back in for those two. Salford won't be easy as well. So yeah, I think maybe give Nico a rest and either play Thomas or bring Evans back into the fold if he's fit.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, you look at our bench, especially in the attacking department. We've got Thomas, Saunders, Clark, Lofts. I think maybe Barton, it is time to budge a little bit. And I know when you're building a team, you want to keep the continuity there, but just chucking one of them in might just bring a different element to the Rovers attack, which we haven't seen.
We saw that yesterday when we brought Clark on. We kind of became a little bit more direct, I think, and maybe it's something to mix up a little bit and kind of try and beat. We could have tried to beat Tranmere at their own game, perhaps, but it's one of those where I feel like we're so good at what we do when we're sort of playing at 100% capacity. I'd still have Collins up front, and either Evans or Anderson, or one of those two obviously has to start, at least. So it's an interesting one, and I wouldn't. Obviously, Clark has had some problems with injuries, and he scored a couple of goals, and Lofts looks very low on confidence. So I think it'd be a little risk bringing one of them in to start. I know we didn't look very good this season when we started with Pittman, who was more of a target man as such. So I'd persevere. I think Collins obviously hasn't scored the last couple of games, but he could quite easily go and score a goal a game for the last 5 games. So I'd keep that attack the same, apart from maybe making the change for Nico, give him a little break.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think at this stage to bring in that new striker would change the way we play. And I just don't think it's worth. And I wanted to ask you actually, because I listened to Mickey Mellon's post-match comments, and I don't know whether we were being biased, because from his perspective, he said they were the better team, which I thought, better team, that's pushing it. Fair enough. He said they had the better chances, and I actually would agree with that. I think
they had that one-on-one in the second half when Belly made a good save low down to his left.
Yeah, and I mean, it was actually there was not many chances in the whole game, really. I think the only ones Rovers I can remember specifically was that Leon Clark shot on the edge of the box.
Yeah.
Which he didn't. You
Yeah,
can't. Yeah, in another game that wouldn't even be on the highlights. And then that one where Anderson just missed it, I think, wasn't it? Straight after our equaliser.
Yeah.
But then
I think that's quite funny how Mickey Mellon thinks they were the better team. I mean, they were completely outplayed them first half. They had a couple of chances, good chances, but
I mean, both of them came from.
I think it's pretty delusional for them to think that they were the better team. I mean, they were very physical. They seemed very incredulous that the referee gave fouls against them when quite obviously it was a foul, which I found quite surprising. They are a good team. Don't get me wrong, but they're not a pretty team to watch. So, a bit like Northampton as well. That's the thing about League Two. You don't have to be a very good footballing side to be up there, and they definitely weren't the better team. I'm not sure what he was thinking when he said that.
I think that's what concerns me slightly, is that I almost feel like this team would do better, not better in League One, because obviously the quality is higher, but the football we're trying to play is suited to a higher level.
It is. It is most definitely. And that's why this season's team would obviously beat last season's team hands down.
Definitely.
So it's always a tough one, because last time we were promoted from League Two, 2015-16, I thought we played some really good football that season as well under DC. I had to deal with the physical teams in division. It's just something that you have to persevere with, and the old cliche of trusting in the process. And I think it's I would say sometimes it's quite tempting to revert to the physical style of teams like Tranmere and Northampton, but if you if you believe in what you're doing, then I think you'll come through the other side successful, and that's what happened when we were promoted in 2015-16. We followed a similar pattern this season too in terms of our league position, so it's going to be interesting. I'm not sure what the points gap was between us and third at this time of the season back then.
It'll be interesting to find that out, wouldn't it?
It's 5 points at the moment. How many points are we away from Vale?
I think it is 5, yeah. 5. And then Mansfield still have 1 game in hand.
Yeah. So it's still so tight. And, if you're in that position, you lose a couple of games and you're out of the mix, whether that be automatics or playoffs.
Well, so there is a slight concern to me. I think realistically we will get playoffs, but it is a bit of a concern, isn't it? If you think we've got Salford, Port Vale, Forest Green, it's not out the question that we lose all 3 of those games. If we do, that's not enough for the playoffs, is it? So
that's why it's vital that we stick to our guns and play the way which is seen as catapult from 17th to playoffs. So I think it's always a tough, as you said, going to Tranmere is very tough, and they're up there for a reason. I think we should have confidence playing at home against Salford. I haven't actually seen Vale play this season. I don't really know their style of play, but knowing DC, it'll be fairly good football. So that probably will be one of the best games of the season, perhaps for a neutral. So it's a tough one, and as we both said, if you lose 2 games in a run in now, that's not enough to probably make playoffs, because the teams in 7th and 8th, or maybe is it 8th and 9th, are just outside the playoffs, are on the same points or maybe 1 or 2 behind. So I haven't quite looked. I know Sutton are just outside. I can't remember the other team, but
I think Newport now, maybe.
It's probably Newport. And if you just have to be extremely careful, but at the same time you can't be ultra cautious, because you have to go out and try and win these games. So it's an interesting one. I still have confidence in us.
It was like yesterday, I thought Barton probably could have attacked that game more towards the final stages. Bring like a Thomas on for maybe one of our defenders. And I don't blame him, because I think if we had lost that game, the mood in the camp would be a lot worse than it is now. So it was a smart move by him. But I think we both felt come away if we just a little bit of extra luck, or
I think
something like
just
that.
in the first half, we really tried to test Murphy a bit more. I can't think of a save he had to make off the top of my head.
Dodgy haircut as well, didn't he?
he was having a bit of banter with the Gashead as well, which was actually really good to see. So I think it's because he slipped before their goal, but he got the assist, didn't he?
All the fans did the sort of the classic "way," and then 10 seconds later, Hemmings is putting in the back of the net. You think, calm down. But yeah, in terms of the rest of the season, is your prediction that you think we will make the playoffs?
Yeah, it is. I think on the balance of play, it'll be what we deserve. I don't think I feel like as a team on paper, we're definitely good enough for automatics, but I think that amazing run that we started on in January probably started a little bit too late. So you see Mansfield, I think they're 4th, aren't they?
Yeah.
They went on and started like an amazing unbeaten run, I think, in December time. From what I remember, you correct me if I'm wrong, if that isn't the case, but
Mansfield, is when that concluded with their game against us, didn't it?
Yeah, they went on a huge winning streak. So I think on a balance of play, playoffs is probably what we deserve at the moment.
Yeah.
And I'll take that. I think we could beat any team in the league. The FGR game will be interesting actually, but I think on our day we can beat any team in the league. We shouldn't beat anybody in the playoffs.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think when we hit that top gear, we are a great footballing team, and I think we could beat anyone. But in terms of when or if we make the playoffs, who would you least like to face, and who would you most want to face? Let's say Forest Green and Exeter are out of that question now. I think probably.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to face Mansfield. Just because they've been on a very similar run to us since over the last few months. I'd happily take, if Sutton were to make it into the playoffs, I'd happily play against them. I was incredibly surprised how high they were in the league when we played them at their place, and then
very average in my opinion.
Yeah, very average. I'd happily play Sutton in the playoffs. I'd happily play. I think Tranmere over 2 legs. I think I'd be okay playing against.
Northampton,
the same. I think I just fear Mansfield, and I'd be indifferent between the other teams. I mean, the thing is about Rovers, we never do things easily, do we? So the only times we've been, I say the only times we've been promoted 3 times since I started watching Rovers. 2006, 2007 under Trolls. We just made the playoffs on the last day, didn't we? And then won the playoff final. 2014-15 comp season under Darryl, we bottled it at Dover, One in the
Will
playoff
Buddy
final.
flapping it into the goal, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then the season after, the promotion season from League Two, we were, in the promotion hunt very late and managed to nick the final place on the last day in the last minute. So I just feel like it's the nature of the club to just do things, never do things easily.
No.
That makes euphoria even better, right?
Yeah. I was saying this to you. Would you prefer, if I could guarantee you that we'd go up in the playoffs, you'd take that all day over automatically?
Yeah.
100%.
I think just the euphoria. Although it would be nice to see us win a league title at a canter. I think just something that perhaps FGR have done this season. I know they've had a wobble. They had a wobble last month. They're doing okay now. I think it'd be so nice to see Rovers win a league season, triumphantly. And I know that's happened in the past. It just hasn't happened in the last, 16 years?
Not in our lifetime, really, has it, mate?
Yeah, not in our lifetime.
No, I think it's that special day out, isn't it? Like we had that day with the conference playoff final. It's a great day for the club. Something you can look back.
Yeah, that was stressful. But then obviously euphoria is just unparalleled.
There's something for me about this team. If we make the playoffs, I know probably a lot of the other teams in the playoffs are sat there saying this. There's something about the character that just makes me think we would do it. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, as a fan, you have rose-tinted glasses on, but I look at the team and think they wouldn't let us lose. There's so much determination in this squad and such a togetherness that it almost feels inevitable. And that sounds very arrogant, but do you know what I mean?
No, it's definitely the football played is probably the best that I've watched at Rovers. Perhaps maybe the DC 2015-16 season was very similar. But yeah, it's quite easy to become slightly delusional when your team's on a great run of form. But we're in the playoff hunt for a reason, and we were in the automatic hunt until the defeat at Carlisle. So yeah, I think I'd still be confident getting into playoffs. It wouldn't be ill-founded to be confident. I think we've got an incredibly talented team. We play really good football. And we've got the best keeper in the league, in my opinion. I always feel like the best keepers are the fifth defenders, if you get what I mean by that, in terms of the best key. Obviously there's some very good shot stoppers in this league. And I know Belly is one of them, but the composure that he has, and distribution wise, I think is what sets him apart, in my opinion. He's almost like a fifth defender.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, I'd be confident. I'd be confident taking on any team apart from Mansfield.
Yeah.
So let's just hope that. I mean, we're sixth at the moment, aren't we? So we'd be playing fifth, which is
Northampton, I think.
Northampton. So obviously that'd be a tough game at their place. It was, a very physical team to play against, but I'd be confident. Yeah. And also the fact that I think this is at the start of the season, we knew we had a good team, and we were throwing away points away to Colchester, away to Salford. Those two that stand out for me, and obviously that would take us to fourth or whatever. We threw away points at the beginning of the season, so I think it's sort of reached its natural equilibrium now at the moment, and I think I'd be confident.
Nice. So just to round the video off, if I go through the team and just say if there's any change you'd make. So obviously Belshaw stays. I think the only real defensive change you would make is possibly if Anderton is fit, would you bring him back in for Trevor Clark, or do you think you'd leave it as it is?
I thought Trevor Clark did it quite well yesterday, actually.
Yeah, I've liked him when I've seen him.
But I would stick with Anderton if he's fit, because I think he's just. I think he was quite instrumental in that run, in that 6-week form. He's actually obviously a solid defender, but actually quite adventurous going forward. So I think Trevor Clark's actually done very well, but I know Grant's back too. But I think I'd I'd probably start with Anderton or Grant over Trevor Clark.
Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with you. And the thing with both Anderton and Grant is that they offer something in the air as well. So if we are looking for that, like a scrappy goal like Taylor scored against Bradford, they're more likely to offer that than Trevor Clark, aren't they?
Yeah.
And then in the midfield, I think we can both agree Finley and Coots, that's a given. Both start. I think obviously Elliot Anderson starts. I think Harry Anderson starts. And then I agree with you. I think I'd play Collins. And then for me, I'd bring in Evans and push Anderson to the left. Is that what you think you do?
Yeah, I'd make that change too. I know we mentioned Luke Thomas. I think he'd be more than good enough to play on the left. But I think if we could ideally revert to the team that did so well in that 6-week run of form, so that means Evans, Coots as a linchpin, Evo and Finley playing ahead, Anderson on the left so he can cut inside, Rhino on the right, and Cold Dog up front. I think.
Sounds good to me, mate.
Yeah, I think Collins can hit another purple patch before the end of the season. Yeah. I know I can't remember the last off the top of my head. I think it's only been a couple of games since he scored, maybe a couple more. But I think, especially in the home games when we can sort of play to our strengths, I think there's the possibility he could hit another purple patch. So hopefully that happens. That's the sort of thing that could propel us into the automatics. We'd obviously be banking on other teams to screw up, but
that happens.
Yeah,
it happens, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? There's always in the end of season there is always weird results to get thrown up that allow teams to come in.
The team that did that in our last promotion season was Plymouth Argyle. They were up there all season. I think they were third, and they bottled it. I can't remember with how many games to go, but they weren't even in contention on the last day.
Yeah.
So
crazy things can happen.
Capitulate. And maybe I'm being slightly delusional, but I think it's possible. I'm actually going to look how far away we were from third position at this point. Of
Get it up. No, because you're right actually, because it was Accrington, wasn't it, who drew at home? I can't remember who they drew at home to.
Stevenage,
and Stevenage were right down there, weren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
So any sort of results like that are more than. It's when the pressure's on, it does funny things to teams.
Yeah, and that could well happen to us as well. It's that's why I think League Two is probably the most unique league in the footballing system, is that you can really see teams capitulate towards the end of the season. I'm talking not title winning teams, but automatics and playoffs. Mostly automatics, really.
Definitely,
you just capitulate, and I don't think that will happen to us, but you see it happen quite a few times. So I think all focus now goes to Salford. I know they've been, they're on. I think they're just outside the playoffs, aren't they? I remember the game at their place when they were down to 9 men after half an hour. We were 1 up, and then conceded in the last minute. That was it.
I was there, and it was painful because we absolutely dominated that game.
Yeah.
And you can just see it. I know it's one of those things. Probably every club's fans say it, but I was like, this is going to be so Rovers if we don't take our chances now. And then, of course, final minute they scored.
The bloke studded barely in their head as well, I think.
Yeah. It could have been on tape. He didn't even get a card for that.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
That was back in October, November when we were throwing points away. That was the most frustrating part of the season for me, because I knew then that we had the team and the synergy.
Yeah.
We just had the worst game management in the football league.
And we have to turn it around now, haven't we? And it should be a really exciting game. And just before I let you go, mate, do you want to give me a score prediction? No, we haven't got any right so far, so let's hope.
What did I say about Carlisle? I think I said 2-1.
Yeah, and I think I said 3-0.
I mean, I got the difference right, but completely the wrong way around.
Yeah, go on, give me a prediction. 2-0?
2-0 Rovers.
You going to do goal scorers?
Collins 2. Back in form.
Love that. That's perfect, mate. Thank you once again for coming on. And Wooks will be on the channel many more times. So I'll probably we'll do another review after the Salford game.
Yeah, definitely. We got our Rovers best team of all time as well.
Yeah. So look out for that video as well. So cheers, mate, and enjoy your day.